Welcome to the Roadshow. Oh, I can't stop fishing. I've been fishing every day, all day. I just love it. I got it in my blood, as all you do. And thanks for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Gives us something to do, kind of in the in between times, even though this isn't in between times. There's fish to be caught. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And the walleye season has closed up on the river. Uh, and it's time to transcend into something else. But before I get into that, I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for being a proud supporter of the online show and Chesterburg state of the art facilities, legendary trucks. Hey, Goose, I hope you're feeling better. Just great place. Brand new, just about brand new facility. Hey, good to see you guys. And they have a state of the art place to repair your cars, and they have the legendary trucks, Toyota. Stop in. They got used trucks. Say hi to Brian and the gang, and they got a nice little waiting room there. They got coffee, and so tight lines to you too, man. Good to see you. So Chesterburg Toyota, thank you for supporting us, and of course, uh, I want to say if you're in the market, whether or not you're in the market for a big side by side or four wheeler, you want to stop by Bemidji Sports Center. They got tricked out rides. They get it. They fish. They hunt. They live in the North Country. They got some crazy stuff. You want tractor tires on your four wheeler? They can put them on there. They're crazy. They got it. So stop in Bemidji Sports Center. And if you're going to come here, talk to Brady and the gang at Visit Bemidji. They will hook you up, set you up, and tell you where you can go, what to do. And I hear Brady's a guide, and he's a good one. He's such a nice guy. He's got to be good. Hey, Joseph, Lauren, good to have you. Uh, Thanks for joining us. And visit Bemidji if you're coming to Bemidji. Your source to check out what's going on, whether you're fishing, you're morel hunting, you're stopping in. I don't care what you're doing. Riding four wheelers, there's a lot of trails around. Really big sport. It's giant. I ride them to and from my fishing spots, but whatever you do, talk to Visit Bemidji. And to all my sponsors, this is great. We get to talk fishing. I'll get to the fishing. Okay, so here we go. Without any further ado, let's bring in my co-host with the mostest, Sam, who wins the walleye stamp. That stamp back here, it's in this frame. He won that. He painted that. Sam Larsen, are you with us? Can you come on in?
Hey, bro, how's it going?
So now you keep rising in the ranks. Hey, Kale, good to see you're with us. At Northland, are you like supreme being, or are you like the Darth Vader of there? What are you now?
No, I am just the product manager over there. So
Well,
designing,
that's all right.
yeah,
So
designing new stuff with you, helping out the marketing guys with their stuff, and then all the other fun things that comes along with being in
you get
marketing
a gavel. Can you hit
So
the desk
I
when
don't
you
have
need
one.
something?
Well, some company sent Greg one, but he hasn't used it yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, Greg Wallner,
Well,
he's our fearless leader who keeps us on track. He's a genius. He's been in the industry forever. Everybody knows him, loves him, and probably at a game somewhere or setting a hook. Excellent fisherman. I've shared time in the boat with him and his friend from a golfing, or is he from Arizona? He knows how to catch walleyes. It's
mhm.
amazing. Fishing is what brings us all together, and that's why we want to talk about it. But Sam, so the walleye season ended, and now
Yep.
we're gonna start thinking sturgeon. But before we do, let me hold it right here. Hey, Brooke, you got those pictures of the walleyes on the river? I got a chance. I went back out there a little bit slower, but big tankers. I mean, this fish is just under 30 inches. Look at that beast. It's so much fun. We're real gentle. We're just borrowing a little bit of their time and just fun. And then Brian Martinka from Chesterburg. Hey, tell Brian you liked his walleye photo on the Bro Road Show. This thing was a beast. Way to go, Brian. He stuck it in there. He had a great day. Caught some saugers, wallies. Was it like you didn't get 80 or 100? It was more like you had to work hard to get
Mhm.
like 40. And some people, I talked to one boat, they caught nothing on the Rainy River. And we're
Yeah.
like,
I,
hey,
I heard
Todd,
I heard
Justin.
mixed reports from last weekend, so
Yeah. And
definitely slower than what it had been.
so, I love the deep V spin. I've been using them like crazy. I shot with Nick Linder. Randy in the house. And last fall when the algae was dying, yeah, that was a big one. The algae was dying. It turned the water real ink dark, and that little cloud of ink. We were hammering them, and Nick's got some footage we'll have to get from him sometime. But the deep V spin, and Brian started out with that Moonlight minnow, and he was really cracking them pretty good. A lot of eaters. I put it on a 3/8 ounce deep V, and now the water is not moving that fast, and you kind of had to lock down. You move, set, lock down, and pull, and just kind of jig. You get that spinner going, they're cracking. I mean, they're just thumping it. And look at that. I've never used such well, Detroit River maybe, but on Rainy, things are changing. Everybody's throwing eye candy up there, and they're all catching fish, but we still bring minnows. I was putting a little rainbow on here, and just in case they needed that little push, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I
And yeah,
want to ask you, you're the sturgeon king. Tell
well,
me about sturgeon.
yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the sturgeon king, but I do enjoy doing it. Me and my wife get up there quite a bit. I think the fun thing about sturgeon is when I first went up there to do it, I thought it was going to be like musky fishing. That if the boat gets one mid 40-inch fish a day, that was a good day on the river. I quickly learned it can be quite the opposite. And it's not uncommon to see 10, 20 plus fish days out on the river. It's a ton of fun. It's easy to do, and I think everyone should go give it a try because the Saint or Rainy is an awesome fishery. There's an awesome fishery in the St. Croix.
Yes.
They're just fun. They're by far the hardest pulling fish in Minnesota for sure. Like they will wear
There
you
you
out.
go.
So
Look at that thing. I'm telling you, I don't know what it is. They're hitting the eye candy, and normally you say you don't mind if I land this. 45 minutes later, and tennis elbow, and the
yeah,
beast comes in. What a great time! I love those things. I want to catch them on a heavier line because you know what? I'm not into the treadmill on with my hands. You know, I want to just I want to catch them and
so yeah, that's a good analogy. The spinning rod, the walleye setup is a treadmill, and the sturgeon setup is a bench press.
it is. Hey,
They
Chad,
will
how you
kill.
doing? You
Um,
know, and here's the thing. You know how this is a 7 reel, and I don't know if everybody out there's heard of it. It's a reel that St. Croix's coming out with. That drag was spooling. I had it tight, so I went from basically, you can go 8 ounces to 15 pounds in the drag. I had that
mhm.
thing at like 12, and I mean, I had a 10-pound braid, and I had it at 12, and I had the leader on there. That's how strong Sunline is, but that thing was just going and going and going, and it never failed me. I really love this, and I just like something new, and I like the fact that they back their stuff. And so look for Seven, but it's Sevin. Love it, and they're very affordable. You don't have to break the bank. Get something, and they'll stand by it. But using that on a walleye rod, fantastic. And when you go up there, what pound test and what kind of setup are you using?
For sturgeon or
Hmm.
walleye. Okay,
Sturgeon.
so for sturgeon, I like the heavy gear. So we're using 80-pound braid. I spool it up on a bigger round style spooling reel, but a larger bait caster like some of the ones Seven makes would work well too. And then we actually use um, shorter, heavy, extra heavy rods. So for someone getting into sturgeon fishing, a simple catfish setup, a heavier catfish setup is
Oh,
a really uh, good way to go because you don't really need the super sensitivity in the rod. You're kind of watching and feeling your tip for bites. But once you get them hooked up, having that shorter rod will help you get more leverage on the fish and get it into the boat quicker. If you bring your 7-foot musky rod, you're fighting all the length and all the reverse leverage of that. So, yep, 80-pound into a heavy rod, big reel setup, and try to get them up as quick as you can. And they usually take you on a few runs and dogs. So it's
and they,
fun.
they get wild if you bring them up really fast. So you got to
Yep.
play them a little bit, don't you? Or would
Oh,
you just bring them up?
Well, I mean, with the heavy setup, um, what sturgeon kind of do, and we saw it on the one you caught on the walleye gear. It's almost like they don't know they're hooked at first, and you can usually bring them up to the surface one time, and then once they get there, they're just dogging you. I like to fight them hard usually. Um, it's to the point where the fish are big enough; they're gonna pull on a lockdown drag when they
Yeah.
go, and you end the
No,
fight a little sooner, tire them out more. So that's the way we like to fish them because it can still be a long, long fight, and keeping them out of the anchor rope is important. I'm excited this year. I'm finally just going to spot lock up there, so that'll
yeah.
be nice to not have to deal with anchor ropes. And
I'm telling you, Minn Kota with spot lock,
yeah,
it's like going from a square wheel to round. They just invented something that's absolutely amazing, and you've seen a few of them years ago. Now everybody's got one. Every boat, there's boats that look like they could be in the Smithsonian up there with wings on the back, and
yeah,
they got a Minn Kota with spot lock on, and this is what we use a lot of these flat
yeah.
sinkers. Then they don't roll in the current, uh, and then a big
And
gamma
you
cat
shouldn't need
hook.
that much weight up there this year. That was a 2 ounce. Usually, uh, like 4 to 5 is on a normal current year, but I
Oh,
think you could get away with that 2 ounce easily this year.
last year it was ripping because we had high
Yeah,
water. I remember that the big fork and the little fork, it was up to people's cabins and then down by the resorts. It was a mess, but I like those red hooks sometimes, especially with the clearish water, and they're so strong. And people make their livelihood on gamakatsu in the saltwater, so you know they're going to be good for sturgeon. And I get different sizes, so if they're finicky, a 3-aught, 4-aught, you're good.
so those octopus circles are really good. But my wife has always kind of been more of a hook setter. So we have her set up, which sounds funny
Straight.
for sturgeon fishing, but with the Gamakatsu extra wide gap finesse hooks. So once you get that finesse hook in a 3-aught or 4-aught, 5-aught, it actually is a fairly stout hook, but it is thinner wire than the octopus. And she has opened up hooks a little bit, but
Hmm.
never straightened out a hook. And we've caught 60 pluses on that setup. So
Well, and I was out fishing with Jeff Hamilton from the falls up there at Rainy, and there was one sturgeon, and it was all you could do to handle him. It was
yeah,
coming a little wild, fast current, and we measured it out. I had a big ruler out, and we had a 69 inches, and the thing was going wild, so I let it go, and so it don't hurt itself. And it said, "Did you pinch the tail?" And I never pinched the tail, and I'm just calling it 69, but he said it's way bigger than that. And there's some monsters up there,
it's pretty
and that
incredible.
one, I think that
And
one caught me.
and a 45 incher will make your arms burn too. That's the funnest part
Absolutely.
about it. Even the little ones pull hard. So we got some questions about what bait and stuff. So we talked about the no roll sinkers. Kind of the setup is you have your main line, no roll sinker. I like to put a bead behind that just to kind of help protect your knot from that the rough edges of the sinker running down there. And then a heavy swivel. I just run straight 80-pound braid anywhere from 8 to 12, 15 inches to that hook. And then on that hook, I just load it up. Um, I load it up with night crawlers. And then I like to put a little piece of eye candy or even like a full eye candy night crawler at the end to lock on those crawlers because you're going to be dealing with little sucker minnows, all sorts of small bait fish trying to pick away at your bait. So
Well,
that's
that's
kind of
just it, though. We have a eye candy night crawler,
night crawler will work
which is
perfect.
like,
Yep.
in North Dakota, South Dakota, they do a lot of trolling with spinners, and they do a little bit here. But I that's my sacrificial lamb. I cut that thing up into little pieces and use it all over the place
Yep.
because it's so cool and it's so strong and it's absorbent of scent. But
Do you run straight braid for your leader line, or do you use?
yes, I
Okay.
like it soft, and I've
Yep.
always heard that. I used to use fluorocarbon, but I
Yep.
think they can feel it. They're real sensitive. They're
Yep.
actually kissing it.
And I've heard that, and I also heard some people using some short stints of mono too to get a little stretch. But we've always used straight braid. Um, haven't had a problem with it. We have noticed, and I don't know if it was just the fishermen or the setup. But when we first started doing it, still when we do it, you say I'm the sturgeon guy. My wife is the she's the sturgeon gal. She always outfishes me up there. But I think part of that was when we first started going up there, I'd use a salt and pepper braid on my
Sure.
line, and hers was straight green, and she'd always get more bites on the straight green.
Oh, and
So,
I have that right here. There's I'd
yep,
go heavier, like maybe a 60-pound test, and then you could
yep,
really horse on them. But that green and it round, so it doesn't cinch or tangle.
yep,
That's what I love.
yep.
Sunline. And so here we're getting to this part where I really want to say or ask you: do you put any attractants like colors? Probably eye candy as a color, or do you put any beads or anything on your hook?
I haven't messed a whole lot um, with that. I've kept it a pretty simple setup. I have messed with whole night or eye candy and impulse night crawlers down there, um, and I don't know if it helps or hurts, or I shouldn't say hurts. I don't know if it helps or nothing, but it sure doesn't hurt anything. In fact, I think when those suckers start to pick down at your bait, having that little extra chewy thing, there will be good. This year, I'm going to play with scenting up some eye candy before we go there because eye candy is super absorbent, so it's going to absorb that scent
Yeah,
in a minute.
and so one thing I want to mention, and people know this, and it's getting out. I've been using some Northland Bass extra skirts that you get, and I've
Yep.
used Fire Tiger and white and glow, but I've also had really good luck on with glow beads. And this year, I talked to some sturgeon anglers. The walleye anglers are catching more sturgeon than the sturgeon anglers.
Yep.
So I agree that color is a big thing, and they have them little eyes, and it's darker water.
Yep.
So you could actually probably thread something like this up there, maybe half
I
of
think
this,
so. Yep.
like you say, to keep it on there. But with the suckers, I'm curious if anybody ever inflates all the crawlers just to get them off the bottom, or floats them up a little bit, because I've
Hmm.
noticed those things will come in and hammer on it. But I don't know, maybe the suckers will leave it all alone if it's up higher. But before we get too far into this, can you, Sam, tell us about the prize pack?
Oh,
People
yes.
want to get that prize pack.
Yes. Of course, like every week, we got a prize pack going. So, bunch of Northland gear, some gear from Visit Bemidji, and then the Bro Roadshow
Oh,
mug.
look at
So,
that.
make sure to like, comment, and share, and that'll get you entered in to win. Brooke will be picking out a winner at the end of the show. So,
Sweet. I love it. And we've had this question a few times. Uh, what eye candy would you use for crappies? And this is one I'd use. This little
mhm.
minnow. I'm trying to, what size is that? That little tiny one. That's
The
a
3 inch. Yeah,
three.
that one's 3 inch.
Well, that little tiny one. Well, it's not tiny, but I'm not fishing for 6-inch crappies either.
Yeah.
11, 10, 11, 12 incher just smokes this, but I'm going to pull it out because just like the other one, it's really, really limber. And then about scent, people ask about scent, and I, from all my different buddies, I all use different scent. Oh, I'm a Dr. Juice guy. I'm a smelly jelly,
Mhm.
and I like Procure. I'm not sponsored by scents, so if I say I like Procure, I like Procure, and I just like what it does. But that's that little minnow, and when I was reeling it, and I wasn't even jigging it, that tail was moving around like this. So that this stuff is really crazy good.
Yeah.
And then when I jigged it, if you stop, it stands up. It floats
Yeah.
up like this. And we talked about this. I like using the short shank jig head, especially on the smaller one for walleyes.
Yep.
And I've used a smaller one for walleyes a lot.
That
But
that short shank was designed for live bait, but in recent years, it's been super popular for these finesse plastics that have also been growing in popularity. So that little
that's why
short
I'm
shank
like,
tungsten jig is perfect.
panfish. We need
Yeah.
panfish stuff. But that one right there, uh, I actually caught a walleye on Winnie, 28 inches, 28 and a half inches on this
Yep.
on a hot, bright afternoon, and they just weren't biting. Just hammered this. So it works. And that was with a 16th ounce jig head. So really cool stuff going on there. And then so let's talk a little bit because a little bit more about sturgeon. I've been getting good reports. I had a little report from Bill Valentine was up fishing, and he said it's going. You wouldn't think that Bill was saying it, and other people, and we know Donnie's out there every day. He's hitting her hard, and he's fishing for those sturgeon, and they're in there. You wouldn't think that to be in there, but everybody's saying there's a ton of them up there. What a great fishery! But you cannot fish sturgeon in Canada. It's just
Mhm.
illegal. So make sure you're on this side. I don't care
Yep.
if you got a license. They don't want you fishing them there. So
Yep.
stay on this side, and well, just twice as much for us, right?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because again, one of the first times I went up there, there's a guy with a boat that had a Canadian registration on it fishing the Minnesota side, and I thought that was kind of weird. And I started talking to him, and he's like, "Yeah, you can't fish them over in Canada." So it's good to know. Hey, we had a
Well,
question about locations and depths for sturgeon. It's really, in my mind, it's really pretty simple. I thought there was a lot to it when I first started, but you just want to fish in those deeper holes. It seems like the fish kind of school up and they move from hole to hole, and they're feeding in those deeper holes. So the great thing about sturgeon fishing is everyone's anchored. It's kind of a community event. You don't want to sit right on top of people, but just how it goes, you're going to be fishing around some people in those holes. So
it's
uh,
a everybody's great. I mean,
yep,
no one gets mad if you anchor up right over their lines where their lines are sitting in the
yep.
river. Then there might be battle. You
Yep,
know, then it
or
becomes
cut someone off right in front of you too, because those fish are working upstream, so I
yeah.
always if there's people in the hole, I like to sit behind them, not get out in front of them too.
Well, and don't downstream them. That's
Yes.
what if you're up in Winnipeg and you're anchoring up, don't north them. If you north them, there that could be cause for maybe some
Yeah,
boat bouncing. But yeah, I've never seen it get crazy, and people cheer you on if you get a big one.
yeah,
And there's a question right there. Typically, I'm seeing them in the 20s. If you can find 30s, that's fine. But they're in every single deep hole.
yep, yep, and what I noticed too, um, again, when I started doing this, we were just kinda marking spots off, "Oh, that rock on shoreline," and I didn't have much for graphs or whatnot, but with the addition of getting side imaging and all that stuff, if you can find some log jams in the holes, they seem to like to kind of sit around that, and I think it's just a little extra current break where they'll rest behind those log jams and then come up and feed. So, anywhere that's a little bit snaggy seem to be good as well.
Well, and someone asked, what do you think the biggest one in Rainy is? And we don't want to lose any credibility, but I know there's a fish pushing at 120, 130 pound range,
Hmm.
and we don't know how big they're going to get. I mean, I wasn't here at the turn of the century when they netted them all out, what was laying on shore, uh, or whatever they did with them. They used them as they made oil out of them or whatever. But these things get giant, and they're not the white sturgeon like out west, but they can get pretty big. And
Yeah.
I think they'd know more at the DNR fisheries in Baudette. But I would imagine there's several fish in a 100 pound class because the one I was handling was about 80 pounds
So you
last year.
pretty much hear of a fish over 70 getting caught every year up there. I feel like.
Yeah. So
Well,
upstream or downstream of the hole? That's a great
um,
question. I like that one.
I always have tended to go upstream a little bit, so kind of get on the top of the hole and where it falls off. Uh, but I've seen plenty of fish get caught all over the holes. I think it kind of just depends on how they're working them that day. How about you? What's your thoughts on that?
I I like to side image it, and you'll see
Yeah,
sturgeon, but I like to see if there's just a little patch of rocks or anything anywhere in there, and I like to be on the edge of the rocks. I don't want to be like right in them. I want to be able to find it easy. But if they go near them rocks looking for crayfish and stuff like that,
mhm,
it seems like just a little oasis within the hole. And they're not. There's not always that. There's logs and all kinds of stuff, and you've got to stay away from any logs that are off the bottom because if they get underneath them, you're
yeah,
done. You're done. And a really big sturgeon might make you go off spot lock
yes,
depending on how what kind of pound test. And like I said earlier, someone said line again, green braid, and you want to at least have 30, 40, 60 pound
yep,
test. I like more because I want to wear them out fast. I want them not. I don't want to wear them so down that they're really tired and they don't do what they're supposed to
yep,
do.
yeah.
So
Say I just take the musky rod setups. I think you could, like you said, you could get away with 30 just fine because it's really just a steady pull. And 30-pound braid is pretty strong when you think of it. Like
Hmm.
pulling on a rod tip, you don't really have that much leverage. A lot of times you have, you know, 10, on a spinning rod setup, you're like 5 pounds is like a max hook set. So like a musky rod setup, you're probably pulling like 10 pounds max. So you don't have to worry about it. But having just taken the musky reels off and putting them on there seems to be just fine.
Yeah,
The fish
we
can't
had a
see that
question
well.
there. Have you ever eaten sturgeon? And I did last year. It's very similar to like ham. When you
Hmm.
smoke it, it has a rich flavor, and it's about for me. It's for catching them. You're keeping a 45 to was it 45 to what in that
I
50,
think was it 40 to 45 here. I have it right here.
and then a Mojo catfish is the best bargain rod there is, and
Yeah.
it's affordable. But the Mojo catfish is really a cool setup. You got to look it up. Mojo catfish Syncroy rods would work great for sturgeon or their saltwater stuff. Their
Yep.
deep jigging rod is great because you can hook into it and you can reel a big spinning reel. But bait casters work really well. So
So the season is April 24th to May 7th, 45 to 50 or 1 over 75. And remember, you need to purchase a tag if you plan on keeping one. If
it's
you just do catch and release, which is what we've always done, you don't need a special tag or anything. But if you are going to keep one, you need to get a tag, and once you catch it, you need to report it in. And there's some rules around that, so you want to make
where's
sure.
the second season then? The one
The
July.
second Yeah, I don't remember that off the top of my head, but I think the spawn goes through May and June, and then they open it up July, and I think it
It's
goes
a
or catch,
longer season.
yeah, catch and release goes all the way through to the next winter. I forget when the keep season on there is, but
Yeah,
it's pretty
in
easy to
July, it's
find.
a pretty long season, and
Yep,
the thing is that we don't get as much in the
yep,
summertime. When you set that hook, they come up like a bottle rocket a lot of
yeah.
times, and you get more jumpers,
You
and
get
it's really
jumpers in the summer.
crazy.
Yep,
Having a fish as big as a person jumping by your boat and dancing on
yep.
their tail is a
And
rush, you know?
not only the ones you hook, the ones you aren't hooking too are constantly jumping all around you.
They're peaking.
So, yep, they're a lot of
I
people
see you.
think those sturgeon just come up from Lake of the Woods to spawn, but there are good catchable numbers of sturgeon in the river all year long.
Yeah,
I found that the suckers can be a little bit more pesky in the
yeah.
summertime, so you got to deal with making sure you have bait down there, but definitely fish to be caught.
A lot of biomass, and people do. Hey, everybody to their own. Rock bass, bullheads. People eat suckers, and they say they're great. The quality watershed up here, and I tend to like go from probably walleyes to perch or crappies. But you know what? I'd try it if it was prepared.
Yeah, we just like setting the hook on them. So if
So
nothing
just
else,
in
go out and have some fun.
July 1st to September 30th is the second keep season. That sounds kind of long, but holy cow! Well, we're getting abbreviated up in the spring, but it's a long season regardless.
But it's tricky. Like 40 or 45 to 50 seems like a big window, but you're catching fish anywhere from 15 inches to 60 inches. So that's a small portion of the fish out there. It can be sometimes hard to get a keeper, and I believe there's some laws on no party fishing either. So if you have the tag for yourself, you're only supposed to keep fish that you personally reeled in.
It's
You
like a
can't.
deer. It's
Yep.
like a big animal or whatever. But someone asked, "Do you ever use crayfish, or and does Northland make any artificial ones?"
I've never used crayfish for them. Right now, we don't really make any artificial crayfish either. Other baits, I have heard of people tipping with some emerald shiners for sturgeon. I've never really done that too much, but I've heard that it's been the deal on some of those days that get a little bit tough. So
Yeah, well, and you just got to keep the other things off that you're not supposed to catch. They see it
yeah,
laying down there.
yeah,
But that's all really cool stuff there. Before we go too far, what do we have for our beautiful guests that are here
yep.
listening to us talk here?
So we have the Bro Roadshow giveaway tonight. I got a bunch of Northland stuff in there, some swag from Visit Bemidji, and then of course a Bro Roadshow cup. So make sure to like, comment, and share. And Brooke will be picking out a winner towards the end of the show here.
And I know we've been going on a sturgeon, but let's kind of break into the panfish side.
Yeah.
And I had a chance to go for crappies. Crappies are probably arguably number 2 in the United States for freshwater fish. Number 1 would be bass, then crappie, then walleye. I don't know where we're at on the chart, because walleyes don't exist everywhere, but crappies kind of do. And it's that time of year when they're schooling up, they're coming in to feed, and they've already started. And then a little bit later, there I was out chasing them and caught some magnums. And I'm telling you, they weren't anywhere they're supposed to be. I had to go way back to ice fishing to go find them. And it was great. And that's not the same one. It's multiple slabbers and some real good sized fish. I'm guessing, 14 inch, 15 inch. And then I had a buddy with me from the falls. Hammy was on board. And not only did he net fish, I had to net his fish because they're too big to lift. Old paper mouth falls off. But one of the key things, and I got to stress this with crappies, is water temperature. And they don't come in to spawn right now. They're coming in to feed. And
Yeah.
the whole shallow area is filling with minnows. But, from the time the ice goes off, they do hold back in our neck of the woods. It seems like, over in Otter Tail or down by Big Stone, it might be a little different. They don't just bum rush in here. A lot of people bomb up here, except on the little lakes. They kind of hold back, and when you get stable weather, they come in, and you
Yep.
need a little warmer water.
Yep. Yep. What were
So,
you seeing for water temps when you were out?
uh, that's just it. I didn't have them, but before I switched to electronics, I had 41,
Yeah.
and I think the warmest I found was like 43. And some places are a lot warmer. I'm getting reports of crappies biting in small bays out west.
Yep.
From maybe about an hour away to about 3 hours away, they're starting to get them all over in the bays. And I was pitching. You could use forward viewing. I watched.
Yep.
In the lakes I've been at, there's a lot of people out scanning around with their hummingbirds or whatever they had, and sometimes you got to fish, and we fish, and they're belly to the bottom, and the weeds are all dead, but they're belly to the bottom, and that's how we found them. We fished them up, got
Yep.
them to rise, and they come up for little windows, and then it was lights out.
Yep. Yeah. So I went out a little bit, and I was playing with partly it was getting my boat broken in, but also playing with some new electronics, and got out there and was seeing the fish great. And I kept on casting at them, and I knew I should probably go to this little bay, but I could see the fish right in front of me. Water temps were 42, 43, and I got one small one to bite. Said I better go back into the bay. Went into the bay where water temps were 48,
Ooh,
and it was like nonstop action of smaller fish, but I should have done it a long time ago. And it
sounds
was
fun.
just cool. The fish were loaded in there. I played around a little bit with the perspective view, and that was pretty cool to see all the fish moving around. Have you done that at all? That
Yeah,
horizontal view?
well, yeah, I have, and but one thing, people are asking water temperature. You know, in a lot of areas, the warmest temp there is. So if in the 45 to 55, they're going to come into the shallow, the muddy bottoms. But sometimes you could see them. But I watched a dozen people. Some of my lakes are pressured. I watched a dozen different boats, tricked out boats, scan and look all over, come by us, go all over the place, and then leave. And I was myself and Jeff. We were throwing the deep feed spinner heads in that thing, and we loaded up with plastics. I had the eye candy minnow, and then we also used minnows on it, and we got the one fish that gave up the school, and then after that, we just kept at them, and then you get this little window when it got a little bit darker, they started biting.
Yeah.
And so we're a little bit cool on the big waters, but on the small waters, you're all set. And
Mhm.
So that little deep V spin was awesome. And then we switched over to bobbers, little light bite bobber. I like that brass grommet because I love braid, and you don't have to worry about beads or anything like that when you're using it. And then I had uh, the tungsten crappie king jig. I'm giving up the ghost here, everybody. That thing rocked them, and there's a few bluegills, but that with a minnow was really good. And a little later, they just kind of stopped biting and put a wax worm on there.
Yeah. I was just about to ask you what your favorite thing is to float under a bobber.
Well, I really really love that the crappie king, and I'm really enjoying these flies. The
Yeah.
crappie king uh, flat fry jig right there with a flat size, so you can see it on forward viewing.
Yep.
That one was a blast. But when I realized how big the crappies were, I upsized. I went to the biggest tungsten jig I could find. That you were asking me if they're too big. They're not, because I caught them from 9 inches to 15 inches on that thing,
Yep.
and that thing was fantastic, and good time, and I love it. Uh, I just I just think that technology. Some people use it too much, and you gotta fish a little bit, and
Yep.
they're just
Yeah.
blowing through the rush beds and the muddy areas, and they're not even trying it.
Yep. Yep. And also, like me, I got too attached to fish that weren't going when I didn't
Yeah,
trust my gut. I probably would have made 5 casts at those fish previously, but I could see them down there, so I wanted to catch them, and I should have moved quicker. So
so here's the setup I used. I got a St. Croix panfish. I absolutely love this rod. It's just super light with a 1000 series 7 reel. That's a GX, so it's got the really smooth drag. And then I use a bead and a light bite bobber. And when a crappie just nips it, it's that bobber's down. But I have Sunline fluorocarbon, real light. I've got 6 pound because there's hammer handles around. And then I'm very strict on my knots. I get the fattest uh,
mhm.
threads in the knots so that they don't come undone.
Especially with braid, it's important to lock it down. I know we've been playing around with our bobber stop material over the last few years, trying to get it to get a good cinch on there.
And they love that spinner. But when the water hits
I haven't
high,
tried the spin for crappies yet.
oh, yeah, you designed it, and
I
I'm
know. I've
loving it.
just been walleye fishing with it, so
And here's another thing I'm going to bring to kind of sort the chase out on bigger fish. I like that flash
mhm.
tail. Tell people about that. Why you made it like that?
Yeah, so, um, the deep V has really been catching on. It's by far our most popular, lead jig nowadays, so we wanted to expand the family, and a lot of people really like the bucktail, so we wanted some more dressed versions, so that flash tail was a natural progression. It's got all synthetic material in it, so, it falls a little bit faster. It's got a bunch of reflection on it, and then some of those colors, anything like a white, probably not that one, but that white you had up earlier has actually glow material in the fiber as well. So
Oh
you get
yeah,
a little bit more glow out of it, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a awesome little jig, and like Bro said, anything from crappies to big walleyes, love it. So we're excited
so
about it.
we got a question here down there. What
Yep.
size is that biggest tungsten crappie king feather jig?
Yep. So that is an 1/8 ounce jig. But if you're comparing it to the size of like a lead, it's more of like the volume of what a lead jig would be, but it actually weighs an eighth of an ounce. So it's plenty heavy. And then we also have it in a 16th.
And this rod for searching. Someone asked, "This is a panfish. There's 7 foot, and I could zing this thing way out there." The 7 foot rods are so popular, and they have a dropped eyelet that really gets the thin line
Hmm.
away from the rod so it doesn't slap.
Yeah.
Um, I think this is nice when you don't set the hook, you just reel and that rod bends
Yep.
over. That's the thing. 7 foot is the best.
Are you always using a longer rod for spring panfish?
It's really good. You don't rip their mouth as much,
Yeah, you
and
kind of
so I use the shorter rods under the boat.
okay.
And so on that subject, do you ever fish perch after the ice goes out to now?
I am guilty. I don't do it. There's too many other things going on, and I don't get after it. But I'm always jealous when I see you out there doing it.
Well, Brooke has a picture of me with some perch here, and I love catching them. And you keep the males, keep the smaller females, and those big magnums, let them free. Great time. Look at that thing. Look at the color. Wow,
Oh boy,
like a 2x4. Yeah, it's really lonely out there fishing for those things,
I
and
know.
people will put side by side through the ice, and they'll skip across nasty stuff, put wader boots on, walk on planks.
I I saw in the last few weeks of the ice season, I saw 2 fan boats parked at the Hampton Inn in Bemidji, and I think they didn't look like they were state or commercially run. I think it was local fishermen trying to get out on late ice to get perch.
Well,
But
that's all fine and dandy, but the thing is, before they come into the weed beds and then they stick their eggs and then they take off. That's all right. We don't need the females are fun to catch for pictures, but the males are the best eating. There's no meat
mhm,
on a female's ribs anyway. The males are the best, and they linger for all the way through the walleye season. And that's the thing to remember. But tread lightly. But I've been having a ball. The bluegills, the smaller bluegills, were chasing in with the crappies. The bigger ones were there, but a little reluctant. And our weather switched, so everything blew out. So you have to hit the reset button. Everything's in the ice fishing spots, out
yeah.
deep. There you go. I
Hey,
spilled my guts.
we had a good question come in about cheap fish finder that is easy to use. The Helix series from Humminbird is lights out. They're running a sale on them right now. I think it's anything that's Mega Live compatible. So you got to kind of step up in the game to get like a 7G or a 7G4N or anything bigger than that. But you're getting like $200 to $500 off. And I run some sevens, and they're affordable and they work great.
Yeah.
It's an awesome fish finder for the price because yeah, it's tough to drop some of that cash on some of the big units, but
Well, they're
uh,
very intuitive with their ease of use,
yep,
and run it with an amped outdoor battery, so you get the enough juice to run it, and make sure you have that. And the nice thing with like a 7 or a 9, you could just have a little amped battery from ice fishing, like
yep,
a 12-volt 9 or a 12-volt 32, whatever. It works great.
yep,
And leave it get an ice fishing kit, leave it uh, on the kit. If you got a smaller boat or a kayak, if you're in a big boat, definitely
yep,
attach it. But it's the Helix brand has been fantastic. The Solixes are really nice if you want touchscreen. But everybody talks about Humminbird is the most intuitive to use, best side imaging, best down imaging, and best mapping, uh, and then 360. So it's really awesome, and they're forward viewing. I have no problem getting my clients their limits with that thing, and arguably the best on the ice for looking straight down. It's more clear, but uh, Humminbird's the easiest unless you want to. The other ones are just a different deal, and each to their own. I love my birds, and 7 and 9, yeah, they're user friendly. That's right, Mike. And uh, you could you can map on it. There's so many
mhm.
features that I don't use every day. I forget. In Solix, I think I'm gonna have to get a pilot's license to learn that thing. But
Yeah. Like
uh,
the higher you get, the little more in depth you get. But um,
well, and they're really good deals. And Helix, tried and true. You could take it in colder temperatures. You can use it on the ice. Put it on your sled, 4-wheeler. Uh, I have a old 2-door Chevy tracker I use sometimes. Put it in that. And a few years ago, I tried to bring a big screen out there, like a 10 or 12. I even took a 15. I'm done with that. I
Mhm.
want to next year. I'm going to see if I can get a 5. I mean, I want to just carry around something small, And some of the other units are in that 30-pound range, and people are running around with them all day. Why not just run with something lighter? That's why I
Mhm.
like the birds. They're super light, and they got a heated screen, work fantastic. And but I'm the thing I'm looking forward to the most is my Minn Kota Quest motor, because I keep hearing everybody's ranting and raving about how long it lasts, and it's moving boats at like 4 something miles an hour. It's crazy, and just all how beefed up it is, and all the different changes and all their motors. Looking really forward to that, and just and I love the other one, so I don't know. Spot lock. I remember in spot lock when it first
Yeah.
started, it was awesome. But if you're on like one log with some crappies, you're there and it moved a little bit. It jogged back and forth. Now it's like you got a boat anchor down. It's
You know,
unbelievable.
I I I I think I've talked. I had some big boat troubles over the last couple years, so I was without my big boat last year. Got it repowered this spring, and I've been out with it, which is my standard Ultrex, and it has been like a weight off my shoulders to be able to have spot lock, and that again. So it's so nice to have the power steering, all that. Other boats that we fished out of last year, you're always fighting in the wind, and it's good to learn. You get really good boat control, but then when you hop in a boat with a nice trolling motor, it makes everything more enjoyable.
And then one little thing, question I get, because right now, Mississippi hair jigs are popular, especially like the Northland Deep V hair jigs, and they're super popular. And black, purple, that stuff's really hot, and so that's what people are using, and they're fishing them like they got a jig with bait on it, and they're catching fish. I've seen it. I've seen people put entire bags in their boat, and I've done it too. So you could blade bait, but the big fish are going to hit that buck hair, and I think it's a little puff when it's falling. It's just like Winnebago, that system. They call it flies out there, but that is going to work really good. And so that answers that question. But before we get too far along, what is somebody going to win in a
Yep.
very short amount of time?
Yep. So got the Bro Roadshow prize pack. I got a bunch of Northland stuff. Some of the new stuff in there. We got some swag from Visit Bemidji, and then of course the Bro Roadshow mug. So make sure to like, comment, and share to get entered in to win that.
That's fantastic. It is very close. And so tell us more about this. For just a second, I got another technique that we have to get out, but tell us the different sizes they can get this in.
Yeah, so the deep V is available in 16th, eighth, quarter, and 3/8. And kind of what makes the deep V special. Let me see if I got one here too. Um, is it like I was telling you, it's our premium premium lead. I don't have my jig box here, but it's our premium lead jig. So, bro, if you want to hold it up, you can see it's got a
Here's
keeled
another one.
V design. Hold it face forward there for us. And what that does is it helps that jig track straight in the water. You get those big old eyes on the side, which we know fish love eyes. So originally we came out with the bear jig and then the bucktail jig, and then this past year we launched the flash tail and the spin. So the spin is awesome. It's kind of like a modernized thumper jig. So that one sold out really quick for us. You're still able to find it in stores, but it's pretty thin on the website right now. So if you find some, make sure to pick them up. But
Works really well for everything I've been throwing. One thing I want to mention too, when you get a chance, definitely, unless you're if you're a person who tans, check out the Fish Monkey stubby guide gloves
yeah,
and the face mask. Your face feels good at the end of the day. And then this is what I was handling the sturgeon with. This is the Stealth Dry Tech. It's got PVC so that you can grab onto the fish. You're lifting them in by the tail. Really cool stuff. Cool company. And A lot of that, all that kind of stuff started like around the ocean, the Keys. They have such intense sun, but we get it up here, and I wish we could have that a long time ago. Really,
And
really, really cool stuff.
I really like it for the grip too. Um,
Yes,
I'm a big bass fisherman, so when you're using heavy rods and you got a bait caster spraying water all over your hands all day, not necessary, but it gives you that little extra advantage. So I like the grip of those stubby guide gloves when I'm really
I do
racing on
too.
big fish. And
And
when you're catching a ton of fish, especially those big bass that you get that bass palm, your hands won't be all shredded up at the end of a good hard day of fishing.
and then everybody's asking because I'm in a lot of photos. I got a front cover right now in Canada, in around and in fishermen and stuff. That's the Avco. I use the Samurai hoodie, and then there's the Reaper. They're tactical like hoodie. Love it. You can cover your face. When I was cruising up and down the river, I had that, and I had it up my disguise, and then people go by, hey bro, how you doing? And they'd be all like hidden, and it's like, how do they know it's me? And I guess it's my physique or whatever. But
Could be
anyway,
the two talons hanging off your 21-foot boat.
oh yeah, but don't forget AFCO. They got some really cool rain suits and stuff. But before we go, I want to mention really quick. I want to talk about a technique, and we're going to go on to this a little bit more next time. And with any luck, I think we're going to have Matt from Amped Outdoors on. He's
Oh,
really busy now. He's at the Shields, and they're all having a good time fishing the Missouri River. I hope the winds lay down for you guys. That's a big event going on over there. But it's we'll get him on here to talk. But I have an image here. Bobber fishing. Here's my setup. I get this question all the time, and we'll get. I have a Northland light bite bobber, and I like that short shank tungsten jig because it just falls really fast. And then I'm using FC Leader braid. So FC Leader, that's fluorocarbon. Sunline. And not all the stores have, but my gas station up the road here has them. Max Mini Store. I think Carl's getting it. A Northwoods Bait has it. A Sunline is super popular, and the quality is amazing. But so I'll use that, and they're pitching on the fish. And I've been using a brass sinker. You could use tungsten, but a swivel brass sinker. I can't remember where I got it. Found it under a rock somewhere. But you throw it out there, and you could really see it in forward viewing. But when it's real windy, your bobber's blown away. Super annoying. Even if you're fishing up against the wind or downwind, the fish only stay there so long. I like using a drop shot, or my version, my adaptation is a stealth rig, and I got a picture of it right here. So if you look on this line here, keep that there for a second. There's the cylinder sinker, and I've got 3 or 4 feet of line to it, and I have a longer finger because when I'm using a regular drop shot, I'll get the walleyes will rip the leech off or miss it. And sometimes you get them, but they miss it a lot, or they don't want to put their nose up to the straight of the line. So I tie this loop knot, and then I add the hook later. But I'll put beads on it. I'll try different color beads. That is hot. When I first tied that many years ago, I got 6 walleyes, 6 19-inch walleyes, and 6 casts. So I was pretty hot and heavy on it, and sometimes that works better than bobbers. Some years, and it's kind of a percentage. 2 years ago, that was about 75% of the fish. Pretty amazing. And last year, the bobber was more like 70%. So you got to try different things. Depends on your wind, variations. You're never fishing to the side. The side is where you put your buddy that annoys you, and just put him to the side. So if he's not paying attention to your screen, that's where you put him. Or if he's eating your sandwiches out of the cooler. But bobbers and drop shots are kind of a big deal now, and they used to be, bobbers used to be kind of,
a niche thing, yeah.
yeah. That's a good question, Mike. How do you tie that knot? Uh, you could use a drop shot knot and tie that, but for this rig, you're using a live bait loop knot, and so you make the line into a circle, and then wrap the top over and over, and pull the bottom through the top to make the finger. you're using a lot because sometimes they're 4 or 5 feet off the bottom, sometimes 10. I use it for crappies, and then you take a threader and you thread the hook on, and so pardon me, I'm getting over something here. So what I use for a threader, so you've got the drop shot and you've got the loop coming out like they use if they're fishing in salt water or you're fishing a pompano. So I'll take the bottom of the line before I tie the sinker on, and I'll go in and out of the hook on the Gamakatsu octopus style hook, and I'll thread it on the loop. So if you can picture that, that's great. If not, I might have to do a video this week, but that works extremely well. Add a bead, put the bead in front of the hook, not behind it, because then the bead's going to fall off. So then wrap it 3 times, or you could clip it and snell it, but clip the sinker side of the loop, not the top. So if you're fighting a fish, the fish don't swim away. You'd rather have your sinker fall off than the fish. So clip the bottom, then you could snell it on if you want to make it look like a factory did it. But really cool stuff, and always Gamakatsu. And then I've tried lead but tungsten, smaller profile, gets down there quick. I've put floating jig heads on there like the gumdrop floaters, little pill floats. I've made it real busy, and sometimes just a bead works good. Sometimes you add a little spice to it, and it really gets it going. We're getting to the end here, but before we give the winner, because someone out there is gonna have like, this is like a bounty. This is like a pirate ship full of gold. You just got a pile coming in. I want to thank Chesterburg Toyota for sponsoring the show. Without them, we wouldn't exist. And check out their state of the art facility. Go in there, hang out, say hi to Brian, check out the vehicles, new, used. Just say hello to them. Stop in at Chesterburg Toyota in Bemidji, the first Toyota dealership in the United States. And then go to Bemidji Sports Center. No matter where you live, drive there. They know how to rig machines and make it wild and crazy for ice fishing or just to get out and hit the trails. Bemidji Sports Center, and then visit Bemidji before you go. Check out where there's places to stay. Brady and the people there are super cool. They want to help you. If you're coming up to four-wheeler around or fish, and I always say four-wheeler. I say four-wheeler. That helps. Bemidji Sports Center, and there's people who four-wheeler. And they cruise around on the trails. But stop in, say hi, and definitely we appreciate them. So now, Sam, without further ado, do we have a winner picked
We
here?
have a winner. So tonight's winner, Bro Roadshow prize pack, Northland Tackle, Visit Bemidji Swag, and the Bro Roadshow mug is going to be Josh Eddy. So
All right,
congratulations,
Josh.
Josh. We'll be reaching out to get some shipping info. So
See?
make sure to check your inbox. We're still waiting on one winner to check their inbox. So everyone go look to make sure I didn't message you.
Make sure, yeah, that you want. Congratulations on that. So when you're in watching this, you're in to win. And I also want to thank Sam, my co-host with the multi-hat thing going on, and Brooke, producer, and Heather, creative marketing, Retro Heather. Follow her. She's awesome. She loves music like I love fishing. And to all those people out there, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 7.